Hello everybody and welcome to LMM and this 20k special. So first of all, thanks to all of you guys for subscribing and being part of this. We five here are just completely blown away by the fact that we've now hit 20k. We feel like a proper YouTube channel.
We're not, but
we feel like it though.
yeah, we can pretend.
We're pretending. We're doing a good pretending job. So for this special, we thought we wouldn't crush anything, we wouldn't set fire to anything because we got into trouble for that, and we wouldn't do anything too stupid
or expensive
because we don't have any money. And we thought we'd address one of the questions that we see coming up in the comments all the time is, who exactly are we? And how have we done all of this that you see in the shed?
So basically, this is all my fault. And by extension, it's all this thing's fault as well. Because without Jupiter, there wouldn't be any LMM. Now the story of getting Jupiter is an interesting one, but before Jupiter, I only owned the little 106. And the jump from 106 to fire engine is quite a substantial one. And it all went back to the story of sitting at a stag do dinner with a friend of mine, discussing what would be a good thing to buy, and naturally coming to tanks. And whilst looking at ex-MOD things, we found fire engines, with a bidding starting at about £2,000, and I thought, what a wonderful idea that I could make a lot of money out of, which obviously wouldn't be a bankrupting thing for evermore. So I kept an eye out for fire engines and things like that, and eventually one came up not too far away from where I live. And of course, I went along to have a look at this thing, with my ex-girlfriend saying, "Don't you dare buy it." I took my mechanic friend Lewis, who occasionally appears on the channel.
I mean, that's quite an impressive little thing to be able to
do is that top one.
hit it.
Because he knows mechanics and I knew absolutely nothing. So we went along and there was this big red lump parked up on an industrial estate. And I took one look at it and said to my friend, "If that's got Dennis written across the front of it, I'm having it." To which he looked at me and went, "Well, what was the point in me coming?" And sure enough, written across the front was Dennis. And so I bought Jupiter. And that's what kind of kicked all of this stupid stuff into action.
So I've probably known Lawrie the longest out of everyone here. And so we knew each other from school, and one day he brought a fire engine up to my house and went, "Look what I've got." I was like, "Cool." So yeah, from then on it was help with this fire engine.
It was about this time that I was still working in film, and I met JM on Cars, who was just about launching his channel. So we talked about working together and doing a bit of filming and kind of making a partnership. And around that time, Jupiter broke. I know, that's a surprise. It doesn't normally do that. In fact, it's probably never done that since. I don't think I've fixed it since. So I came up with this very clever idea that I needed another fire engine, which turns out that was a really bad idea. So I went onto eBay and put a punt down on a fire engine, came back 3 days later to work out that I'd won a fire engine down in Cornwall, which if you click up here, that would take you a link to that video. I think everybody, me included, regards this as a terrible mistake, possibly my biggest so far, because that was quite bad. And I knew it wasn't going to be very good, considering nobody else had bidded on it. I now had two big red problems, and I had nowhere to store them, because fire engines don't weather well. They don't like being outdoors. When I bought this one, the roof didn't leak. Having been sat outside for a year in my ownership, the roof leaks, and several other minor issues came about which may or may not have been there beforehand. So that's when I managed to, with JM on Cars, secure an interesting deal of the shed, which would be in return for helping to tidy it out. I could store some vehicles there. So I asked JM to come along down to Cornwall to pick up a fire engine which may not get home. And on this trip we got on rather well, and our working relationship for JM on Cars was basically forged, and for the next 2 years I was the main cameraman doing pretty much everything that JM shot.
I was relaxing and I hear a weird rumble, a rumble I'd not heard before, and then another fire engine turned up very late at night with a trail of rust coming behind it. And that was Red Roof. And at that point, I got told, hold this camera, we need to record this. From which point I found out Lawrie was from JM on cars, and I started helping Lawrie film a few bits of that. So everything from Red Roof in the shed was all me filming for him. Yeah, that's how I first started helping with Laurie's weird collection.
So originally, me and JM on cars. Jupiter, Red Roof, and some of his cars. And slowly but surely, he got pushed until that eventually led to me and JM thinking that what I do is quite different to what he does. So we parted ways. So it was me and Jeffers as Laurie's Mechanical Marvels. And very quickly we realised we needed more help, because this YouTube lark is actually quite time consuming. So I had to think of people who I knew who might be persuaded to help out. And immediately, my friend Matt came to mind, who I've met on the Scrappage Rally.
So, I met Lawrie on the Scrappage Rally, and we kind of bonded over these wonderful things, MR2s. We both had incredibly cheap ones bought off eBay sight unseen, so we spent most of our time chatting about those. After that, we kind of parted ways for a couple of months, and then I got a call asking if I'd like to come down and help sand a train, which admittedly is not the normal request you get, but I've kind of learnt from being at the shed that that is the request which happens at this shed.
So much like Matt, I met Lawrie on the Scrappage Rally and realised that we had a lot of mutual interests, and at the time I was working with Matt in my day job, which is sort of IT support guy. And Matt came up to me one day and was like, hey, you know, Lawrie was telling us all about all these wonderful vehicles he has. Why don't you come down to the shed one day? And that's where I made the mistake. And I'm now here. So after coming down, I just thought it was amazing. Much like everyone else here, I was really wanting to sort of get my hands dirty with vehicles, and it just so happened that Lawrie, being the proprietor of such strange and unusual vehicles that he is, it just was a sort of a great sandbox, really. So yeah, I don't know, I guess I've been here now over a year, coming down to the shed. Feels longer than that, unfortunately.
So with Jeffers, Matt and Trev, there's one more member unaccounted for, and that's Morgan. Now Morgan, it turns out, recognised me from JM on Cars, and he had seen me walking around our local area and thought, I know him, but couldn't quite recall where, until he watched another one of JM's videos. And then he found me on the internet and dropped me a message, and we started talking.
I just like working on vehicles. I didn't have any money at the time, and I was like, I can't buy anything, so I'll just help someone else.
So Morgan turned up. So now I had a collection of vehicles and a team. And from there on, we've met up and put our own time and our very limited money into trying to fix everything in the shed and producing, well, LMM for you guys, which takes up a phenomenally large amount of time. And we've all got other jobs, we've all got real lives. This is a side project that we do for fun.
I work as a IT programmer, so I program stuff, but it also means I'm very into computers.
Day to day, I am an IT support guy.
Obviously working in IT like Trev.
My full-time job that somewhat funds this rather eclectic collection is I drove lorries. That's what I do. I got my HGV license so I could drive Jupiter, and then basically I've been driving lorries ever since, with the odd side project doing other things. I did a little bit of film, but basically I've stopped doing film since I started doing YouTube full time. I can't afford the time to be away from you guys anymore. So yeah, mostly it's lorry driving, which puts the bread on the table and the oil in the engines. As for the question on where's everything come from, well, you can look through our archive. Everything in the shed has a video explaining what it is and where it's come from. Needless to say, everything has really been a bargain. We have been very, very lucky with the prices we paid for the vehicles.
With the basic background of how we got started in the shed and how everybody got involved, we thought we'd answer some questions so you guys can try to get to know us a bit better. Starting off with, what's your favourite thing to do in the shed?
Favourite thing to do in here? I really don't know.
Probably is just continuing to disassemble anything that Lawrie buys within 5 minutes of it turning up. Check out the digger video where I already start disassembling that almost instantly.
I just laugh at Lawrie most of the time, like, at his terrible decisions.
Outside of the shed, what other hobbies and interests do you have?
I'm very into racing, as you may have guessed from my stuff around me. So I do a lot of sim racing, and whenever I can, watch racing. Basically, keep up on racing stuff. I do a few drone stuff if I want, every now and again. But it's mostly sim racing and a few games, competitive stuff, that kind of thing.
So when I'm not at the shed, I kind of like doing a lot of little hobbies. I do a lot of drone work. I love IT, so I play a lot of computer games. I've got a fish tank I look after. I obviously have to fix my own vehicles. I paint miniatures. There's a lot of things which go on in my life, and the shed takes up far too much of that time.
Yeah, I love driving cars.
I volunteer at 5 railways, I think, at the moment, which eats up a lot of time. Basically, I have no free time at the moment. It's basically YouTube, fiddling around with vehicles, or mucking around with trains. That is pretty much my life at the moment. Oh, and socialising with the idiots in the shed. That's basically my life. Oh God.
Really, really hurtful, you know that, right?
So my hobbies, aside from cars and vehicles in general, mainly extends to sort of computers and old school computers, retro computers, all of that sort of stuff.
Out of all the vehicles in the shed, do you have a favourite?
It's difficult. I have two favourite vehicles at the shed. I'd say it was this mostly, because the turbo is amazing. The second favourite one would be the Supra, but it's in such a bad state that it kind of has to go to the turbo because it's so close to being good, and this is the vehicle I'm most hyped for getting on the road.
Ultimately, my favourite vehicle has to be what I'm sitting on right now, the 25-pound dumper, also known as Humpty. And I think it's great.
My favourite vehicle in here is the red turbo MR2, but I've barely done anything with it or touched it or anything. But it's by far, I think, for me anyway, it's the coolest vehicle in here by miles. And it's also near to being completed, but we haven't touched it in the whole time I've been here, even though it needs minor stuff, which just really frustrates me.
Do I actually have a favourite vehicle? I love them all, and every time I drive any of them, I declare without any shadow of a doubt that one is my favourite. So I suppose it kind of ties in that it's this one. This thing has been the biggest pain in the backside I have ever encountered, but I love it. I love it to pieces. Even when it breaks, I still love it. And out of everything, this is the thing I don't think I'd ever sell. In fact, my ex-girlfriend once asked me to choose between her and Jupiter, and I was just like, Jupiter? So it's got to be Jupes.
Currently in the shed, it would be this thing, but it's not Lawrie's. You can't have it. But if it was out of Laurie's fleet, it would probably be the Turbo 2. I really want that to get on the road, or on a track, mainly.
How many vehicles do you own at the moment?
I drive the BMW 330, the E46.
Right now, my other vehicles, I have 5 of them. No. 6. No, I think it is 5. So I have a redacted, my MR2, which is currently off the road, needing a lot of brake work, and the Celica you've all seen me rebuild. Incidentally, the Celica is possibly my the favourite project I've actually accomplished so far, because getting that back on the road was a huge milestone.
Currently, I only have one car, which is a Polo GTI. So I'm a bit unlike everyone else, I don't have old things. I've gone for a very modern 19-plate Polo GTI, 200 brake horsepower. So it's quite fun and gets you where you need to go at brisk pace.
Personally, I only have one car now. I have the Mighty Micra, which you have sort of seen in a couple of episodes. Probably will now continue to see it a lot. Bargain buy for me, £270. Bought it with 38,000 miles. It's now at 50,000 miles. So I've put, close to almost 20 on there, and it just keeps going. Just about. Lawrie hates it. He thinks it's a death trap, but that's because he just doesn't understand the magic that is the Mighty Micra. Before that, and only up until recently, I also had a GT4 ST205, but unfortunately I did lose that.
Is there a particular era of cars which you enjoy more than any other, or a favourite era?
I like any era of vehicle that was good at the time, or was seen as like the pinnacle of driving or driving pleasure. So you could go back all the way to the 1930s. There's only really two cars I really think of, and that's the Bugatti Type 35 and the Bentley, the good old Bentley boys, blower Bentley stuff. You look at that, you just think, yeah, cool, that looks good. That looks like good. And for the era, that was really good. But everything else, I was like, that's terrible. And that sort of goes through all the eras, through like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s to now. I only like cars that drive good or handle well. I couldn't give a toss in what some people like with that they look at an old Vauxhall Calibra or something and then go, oh, there's only 7 of these left on the road. I'm like, there's a good reason for that, mate. They've all been scrapped, and for good measure as well.
90s really, early 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, anything from that era, and that extends further than vehicles. So yeah, I just love that whole era of automotive. I find that's the perfect era where, like Mr. Regular said, he said that it's where we get just enough creature comforts, but it doesn't become too technical. It's not all run by computers, which sounds amazing from a guy who works in IT support, but I can tell you, anybody that works in IT support does not want to come home and fix more computers.
Oh, my favourite era of cars is kind of a difficult one. I'd say the 80s if I just have to pick an era, but realistically I do like the early 90s as well, so probably 83 to 93, that's probably the sweet spot, I think.
So I'm probably very different to everyone else. I'm much more modern. I like anything with a racing heritage. So if it's a racing heritage, I love it. For a modern, normal car, it'll be 2000s, this decade even. I am very much the odd one out in the shed for what I like. But I do, if you've got a racing heritage, I will definitely be interested in it.
Well done.
I find it really hard to kind of find a particular era of vehicles that I like over anything else. I really like stuff from the 70s, I really like stuff from the 80s, and I like a lot of stuff from the 90s. So anything post-2000, basically, I'm not interested in. If it doesn't work perfectly, I'm probably interested in it. And if it's really impractical, or quite large, or makes a lot of noise, not like a chavvy boy racer noise, but more of a large agricultural chug, chug, chug noise, or makes clouds of steam or smoke, even if it's not meant to, I'm probably interested in that. That's my kind of thing. So, impractical and large, that's the era of vehicles I like.
So guys, I hope you've enjoyed finding out a bit about us and how we've built up LMM and how I managed to get these guys roped in to be part of the team.
Literally roped in some people's cases.
Everybody here is here totally on their own free will.
Yes. So much that I got roped into making us a website. Being semi-professional like we are, I think that's a correct term, isn't it? Semi-professional?
Semi-amateur.
Enthusiastic amateurs.
We now have a website. The URL will be in the description and will appear here, hopefully. And it pretty much is lauriesmechanicalmarvels.com. You can go there to find out more information about who we are, some bits more about what's in the shed, the vehicles in the shed. You can also use it as a way to keep up to date with certain videos that are coming out, events we may go to, photo galleries, and something that we're terming editorials, which is just sort of other things related to cars and locos and things like that that interest us that really aren't good enough for a video.
So just little bits of writing, little articles for you guys to go on and read.
Yeah, it's just fun little bits of extra stuff, of stuff that we're interested in, think you guys might be interested in. It's a whole multimedia platform of exciting things.
Empire.
It's an empire. We are building an empire. I like
that.
I like the sound of that. So thank you for being part of our empire. We're quite excited about it, and we're really excited for what the future holds. And a massive thank you from all of us to you guys for being part of it. It's absolutely amazing. And so, in the meantime, guys, please like, subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video with your friends. Put out the good word of LMM. And if you've enjoyed watching this and want to see a special where we actually did something exciting, how about clicking somewhere over here for the 10k special where we set fire to a field, or click over here somewhere for the 5k special where we went to crash some stuff. Thanks, guys. Thanks for being part of it. We're amazed.
Join our Discord.
Oh yeah, join the Discord and find us on Instagram. Good work.
Yeah, our Discord's really good actually.
Yeah, Discord's actually picked up really well.